revealed. How one incredible law helped me, a fired engineer, achieve touching justice against my corporate giant. Jake sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the wall as if it might provide an answer. Just yesterday, he had been the solid anchor of his family in Maplewood, known for his untiring dedication. Today he was a fired engineer, a label that felt more like a heavy chain than a badge of honor. The memory of that dark office and the indifferent HR manager haunted him. Corporate downsizing, they said. He could see their faces, smiling kindly as they handed him the severance package like it was a ticket to one of the local fairs he used to love attending with his kids. But now he felt lost, the American dream slipping from his fingers like grains of sand. The sun peeked through his window, illuminating the family photos plastered on the wall. His children, Sam and Lily, beamed with joy in every snapshot at the town fair, on family camping trips, and even at the community car washes they organized. Now looked down by sympathetic neighbors, his heart squeezed in his chest. What were they whispering behind his back? "Jake's a good guy," he imagined them saying. He'll bounce back. But in the dead of night, self-doubt crept in, gnawing at his belief in hard work and merit. But everything changed one late evening, when he stumbled upon an article detailing a little-known law safeguarding employees from wrongful termination. Jake felt like a light bulb had flickered on overhead. This was his chance. Throwing aside his doubts, he sat at the kitchen table with a renewed focus, scribbling notes for his case. The prospect of fighting back stirred something long buried within him, a fighting spirit he thought he had lost. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into nights as he dove headfirst into the bureaucratic abyss. Every time he thought about the corporate giant's looming power, an icy fear wrapped around his throat. Bills piled up on the counter, the pantry grew emptier, and the initial thrill of defiance felt heavy under the crushing weight of responsibility. Yet the more Jake attended town hall meetings, the more he realized he wasn't alone in this fight. Voices of frustration echoed off the walls, stories similar to his own, all resonating through the meeting hall like a choir of shared struggles. In that camaraderie, hope ignited a collective fire ready to take on the world. Then came the shocking ultimatum from the corporation's powerhouse legal team. Drop your claim or face dire consequences. Panic flooded his veins. What about Sam and Lily? What if this jeopardized their future? Sitting at the dinner table with his family, his children's innocent faith in his strength made him both proud and terrified. Their bright smiles were imbued with the strength he thought he lacked. He fought to balance ambition and care for his family. The clock ticked loudly, amplifying his internal battle. The moment swelled, and in that charged air, Jake understood he stood on a precipice. He could either fall back for their sake or leap toward a chance not just for himself, but for the community he loved. Could he truly achieve justice without sacrificing his family's peace? The question hung like an open window, inviting a gust of uncertainty that he couldn't ignore. The morning light streamed in, painting the room with a warm glow. But Jake couldn't shake the chill sitting deep in his bones. The ultimatum from the corporate legal team weighed heavily on his heart. As he brushed his teeth, the mirror reflected a man who felt like a shadow of his former self. The defiance that had fueled him through countless late-night sessions turned to dread. Was he really prepared to face the monstrous machine that had so easily tossed him aside? When he arrived at town hall, he could feel the tension in the air. The room buzzed with voices, each person a witness to the same injustice he faced. Jake took a deep breath, grounding himself in their shared experiences. As he scanned the room, he noted the faces of community members who had become allies in the fight against corporate negligence. They exchanged determined nods, holding the unspoken bond of resilience. "Jake," a voice called out. It was Sarah, one of the advocates he had met at the last meeting. Her bright eyes held an unyielding spirit. "Are you ready for today? I know it's tough, but you've got this." He appreciated her optimism, but uncertainty gnawed at him. "I don't know, Sarah. What if they come after my family?" he replied, feeling his voice tremble. Her expression softened. We're all taking a risk here. But this is bigger than any of us. If we don't stand up, who will? You are not alone in this. The council meeting commenced, and the mayor sat regally at the front, the room stilling as he spoke. Our community has faced unprecedented turmoil due to corporate practices that value profit over people. It's time you all speak your truth. Jake felt his heartbeat quicken. This was his moment, a chance to voice his pain, to turn his quiet injustices into a loud rallying cry. The line of speakers began, each sharing their stories with raw emotion. Tales of loss, betrayal, and dreams shattered. Every narrative added fuel to Jake's fire. Finally, it was his turn. Gripping the podium with sweaty palms, he took a deep breath, scanning the faces in the audience, recognizing some familiar ones that mirrored his fear. He began, his voice steady but thick with emotion. I lost my job because I stood for what was right. I had a role that supported my family, a role I dedicated my life to until a faceless corporate decision turned my world upside down. As Jake continued, he sensed the room lean in, hanging on to every word. Fighting this isn't just for me. It's for all of us who are tired of being discarded like a used product. We deserve a fair chance. The applause erupted like wildfire, igniting a sense of camaraderie. After he spoke, an elder in the audience approached him. We need more voices like yours, son. You're doing something important, she said, eyes glistening with tears. Her words ignited a warmth within him. Maybe, just maybe, he could find strength in this community. But the applause wouldn't drown out the fear lurking in his mind. How far would the corporation go to suppress this uprising? Would they truly target him and his family? As he left the meeting, those thoughts crept back, intensifying with every step. That evening, Jake returned home to find his kids asleep, their serene faces a reminder of what he was fighting for. He nestled down into his chair, drawing in the comforting scent of coffee. The heartfelt moments shared that day transformed into the tremble of uncertainty lingering in his chest. He wondered about tomorrow's meeting and what confrontation awaited him. Then came a knock at the door, slicing through the silence like glass shattering. Jake's heart raced. He exchanged glances with his wife, and together they approached the door. What awaited them on the other side could change everything. Would it strengthen their fight? Or was it a visit that would spell doom for their plans? The question loomed large, and the answers seemed just out of reach. They stood at the door, breath caught in their throats. Jake's heart thudded loudly in his chest, each beat echoing the apprehension that gripped him. With a quick glance at his wife Maria, he placed his hand on the cold doorknob. Are you ready? He mouthed, hoping his expression conveyed more confidence than he felt. Maria nodded, though her eyes mirrored his unease. He took a deep breath and opened the door wide. On the other side stood a tall figure dressed in a neatly pressed suit, a clipboard tucked under one arm. The man looked up from his papers, pushing dark-framed glasses higher on his nose. He had an air of authority that made Jake's stomach twist. Mr. Thompson? He asked, a hint of formality tempered with respect. Yes, Jake replied, uncertain. I'm with the local Workers' Rights Alliance. We received your story from the council meeting. The man paused, sufficient time for a mix of pride and fear swell in Jake's chest. We're here to help you. Jake blinked, trying to process the unexpected turn of events. Help me? You mean you want to fight back against the corporation? The man nodded. We want to bring your case forward. This kind of injustice can't go unanswered. Not anymore. The community is rallying behind you. His eyes held a glint of determination behind Jake. Maria's hand squeezed his arm, her presence a steady anchor. What would that mean for us? She asked, her voice quiet yet firm. It could mean legal representation and help gathering evidence to mount a stronger case, the man explained, and Jake could see the hope flicker in her gaze. Jake's mind raced. He thought of the sleepless nights, the worry that clung to him like a second skin. But what if they retaliate? What if we lose everything? His heartbeat quickened as the weight of these threats flooded his mind once more. I can't promise it will be easy, but I can promise you won't be alone in this fight. We've seen corporations back down when their wrongdoings are brought to light, the man replied, determination etched on his face. The silence stretched tightly as the implications of the offer sank in. Could he really join forces with this alliance? Could he stand against the cold steel of the corporate machine? Maria's glance spoke volumes, filling in the spaces where words fell short. She believed in him, and right in that moment he felt a flicker of hope ignite. Okay, Jake said slowly, the word tasting foreign yet liberating. I'll do it. I want to fight. Then let us get started. We'll need to document everything, gather evidence about the working conditions, and we'll need statements from others who've faced similar mistreatment, the man instructed, jotting notes down on his clipboard with quick, precise strokes as the man spoke. Jake's emotion bubbled, a strange mixture of relief and resolve washing over him. This was the first step toward reclaiming what he had lost. The meeting would be pivotal, creating ripples of change. After a while, the man gathered his things, shaking hands with both Jake and Maria. I'll be in touch. Remember, you're not just fighting for yourself, but for all those who can't. His words lingered, wrapping around Jake like a comforting shawl as the door closed. Jake turned to Maria, feeling transformed in the wake of that encounter. We could really do this, he whispered, his voice barely audible. Together, she affirmed, wrapping her arms around him. It felt like stepping into the light after a long period of darkness. But as they stood there, enveloped in warmth, another knock echoed through the house, this one sharp and demanding. Jake's heart sank. What if it was someone from the corporation? What if they were already retaliating? The stakes were becoming higher, and the battle lines were blurring. They were entering dangerous territory, and the weight of the unknown pressed heavily on their shoulders. Jake exchanged a quick glance with Maria, determination fueling his next move. We have to answer. As they opened the door once more, a sense of dread mingled with adrenaline coursed through him. What news awaited them this time? Could change everything once again. The door creaked open and a man in a dark jacket stood before them, hair slicked back, eyes mirror-like under the porch light. He was holding a briefcase that seemed to bulge with secrets. There was something unsettling about him. Jake could feel it deep in his bones. Mr. Thompson, the stranger said, his voice smooth as glass. I have a message for you. The words rattled something inside Jake. A warning? An ultimatum? Who are you? Maria asked, instinctively moving closer to Jake, her presence a reassuring force. Let us just say I work for the interests of the corporation you're so keen on opposing. We need to talk. The smirk on the man's face made Jake's skin crawl. Talk about what? Jake asked, trying to mask the tremor in his voice with defiance. About your little case with the Workers' Rights Alliance. There's no need to complicate things, Mr. Thompson. You have a life to protect. Think about your family, your wife, your child, the baby you're expecting. A chill enveloped the room, and Jake felt as though the floor had dropped out from under him. How could this stranger know? Maria's hand tightened on his arm, fear radiating from her. What do you want? Jake shot back, trying to anchor himself in a reality that suddenly felt foreign. The man's smile widened, revealing a sense of twisted pleasure in his words. To make it simple, drop the case. Cease this charade. Or you'll find that those you love most could be caught in the crossfire. We don't want to see families torn apart, do we? What kind of threat is that? Jake's voice trembled with anger now. He was all too aware of the dangers his family faced but had never expected it to come directly to their door. The man leaned in closer, dropping his voice into a low murmur. Consider this your warning. You're playing a dangerous game, but it's your call. The stranger turned to leave, but Jake stepped in front of him. You think I'm afraid of you? I have nothing left to lose. The words burst from him, filled with raw emotion. He felt the heat rise in his cheeks, fueled by years of oppression and grief. With a smooth motion, the man pulled a business card from his jacket and placed it in Jake's palm. Let us hope it doesn't come to that. The offer stands. With that, he strode away, leaving them in a thick silence. Jake stared at the card, his pulse racing as dread settled in the pit of his stomach. He turned to Maria, her eyes wide with fear. What just happened? We have to stay strong, Jake. They can't intimidate us. We're doing the right thing. Her voice was steady, a lighthouse in the storm that was gathering around them. Jake nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at him. I know. But what he said about our baby, it's not just my life on the line anymore. The impending fight now felt even more dangerous. Every decision weighted by the fear of losing what mattered most. How can we safeguard our family while standing up for what's right? He wondered aloud, his heart heavy. And what about the others? Maria interjected, her brow furrowing in concern. We can't just think of ourselves. This fight is bigger than us. A silent agreement settled between them. They would not back down. But every step forward now felt like a tightrope walk over an abyss as they stepped back from the door. The enormity of their situation pressed in like a vice. Jake's resolve solidified with every beat of his heart. They would fight together. But deep inside a nagging fear lingered, like a dark shadow hovering just out of reach. What avenues of risk lay ahead? What would the corporation's next move be? Jake took a deep breath as a storm brewed within him, a mix of determination and dread. He had a fight on his hands that went beyond mere survival, and as the dawn approached, pinpricks of light through the windows seemed to presage challenges yet unseen. How prepared were they for the storm ahead? Would they figure out how to balance their love with the battle that loomed? The next chapter of their struggle was about to unfold. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow that felt almost foreign in the heavy atmosphere of the previous night. Jake and Maria sat at the kitchen table, both staring at the remnants of breakfast untouched. The coffee had gone cold, but their minds were racing with what lay ahead. Maybe we should call the alliance, Jake finally said, breaking the silence that hung between them. The thought weighed heavily, but it was a lifeline amidst the growing anxiety. They need to know what's at stake. Maria looked up. But would that put them in danger too? What if this man is watching us now? Her voice trembled slightly, and Jake could see the shadow of fear clouding her normally bright features. He leaned back in his chair, fingers running through his hair. We can't sit here and do nothing. They deserve to know. Every worker deserves to be defended. His heart was pounding, torn between self-preservation and his desire to fight for others. What if? Maria hesitated, finding the courage to say what she feared most. What if by telling them we endanger our family even more? They might not look for us. They could come after us instead. Then we prepare, Jake said firmly, though the knot tightening in his stomach betrayed him. If we fight together we can outsmart them. They can't silence all of us. He was trying to put into words a strength he hoped was real. But did he really believe it? As the decision loomed over them, a dull thud echoed from outside. They shared a quick glance before Jake instinctively moved to the window, parting the curtains slightly. On the edge of their street a black SUV sat, its windows tinted so dark that it felt like a lurking beast hiding in plain sight. Do you see who's in it? Maria's voice was a whisper, a mix of fear and urgency. No, but it doesn't feel right. Jake's heart raced, and for a moment he considered shutting the curtains again, closing them off from the world outside. But that would only heighten the fear that gripped him. Suddenly, a figure stepped out of the SUV. It was another man in a dark jacket, identical in appearance to the one who had confronted them the night before. Jake felt the blood drain from his face. We shouldn't be here, he muttered, his instinct demanding they hide. But before they could even contemplate running, the man marched towards their door. He approached with an air of confidence, and Jake felt rooted to his spot, confusion mixing with dread. What does he want? Maria's voice trembled, squeezing Jake's hand. He could feel the tension radiating from her, a living embodiment of their collective fear. Maybe he changed his mind, Jake suggested half-heartedly, but he knew better. There was an edge now, a sense of urgency that hung between them both like a thundercloud about to burst. The doorbell rang, each chime echoing painfully through the house. Jake, what do we do? Maria's panic was rising, and he could see her weighing options in her mind. Stay calm, he whispered back, forcing his mind to think straight. They had to handle this carefully. Let us confront him. We can't show fear. With a deep breath, Jake opened the door. The man stood there, his expression unreadable, face set with a mix of annoyance and determination. Mr. Thompson, he began, his voice smoother than before, we need to talk. The corporation is willing to negotiate. Negotiate? Jake blinked, confusion washing over him. What does that mean? The man shifted, a smile creeping onto his lips. It means you can still save your family if you're willing to listen. Jake felt the blood rush to his ears. What kind of deal was that? What were they bargaining with? Every word slipped from the man's lips like a threat still wrapped in charm, and Jake's heart sank. Stop playing games. Maria's voice surged behind him, fierce and protective. What do you really want? Just your cooperation. It's simple: protect your future, choose to protect your family. His eyes glinted. Or the consequences, well, let us just say they could be dire. As those words hung heavily in the air, Jake felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. What was at stake here? How much was he willing to risk? The implications washed over him like a tidal wave as he exchanged a glance with Maria. They were at a crossroads, a decision that could alter everything they held dear. But could they trust this man, this offer? Jake's heart pounded as he tried to fathom the weight of the moment. Was there a way out? As the silence deepened, shadowed doubts lingered in the edges of his mind. The truth was, what did they really have left to lose? The next twist in their fight was about to unfold. Jake's head spun with the man's words. Protect your future? It felt more like a threat, a game of chess where they were pieces on the board with no say in the matter. He stood there trying to read the man's expression, searching for a hint of sincerity or compassion. Instead, he was met with that chilling, rehearsed smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. Mr. Thompson, let us not waste any more time, the man urged, his tone dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. If you say yes, I can ensure your family's security financially and physically. We know your struggles, we can help. But you need to be willing to play ball. What do you mean? What's the catch? Maria pressed, stepping closer to Jake, her protective instinct flaring. He could feel her urgency radiating through him. The man's smile widened slightly, but there was something sinister behind it. Nothing too difficult. Just turn a blind eye when we need you to. Simple. No one gets hurt and you walk away with a new life. Deal. Deal. Jake echoed, each syllable laced with disbelief. The stakes felt insurmountable. We're not pawns in your game. Of course you have a choice, the man replied, his tone dripping with condescension. But choices come with consequences, and that's the part you should be worried about. Jake's pulse quickened. The threat hung in the air between them like a ticking time bomb. What consequences were they really facing? The idea of putting their lives into the hands of a corporate villain made him sick. But what choice did they have? Maria's grip tightened around his hand. We can't agree to this. It's wrong. Her voice cracked and Jake could see tears threatening to spill. That's where you're wrong, the man countered smoothly. In this world, right and wrong don't matter. Survival does. Jake felt torn, anger and fear fighting for dominance within him. You think we would just exchange our morals for safety? The man shrugged, unfazed. The truth is, you don't have to choose between your family and your ethics. You can have both. I'm offering you a lifeline, but you have to be smart about it. Every instinct in Jake screamed to slam the door and escape this man and his twisted offer. But the reality was stark: they were cornered. And behind him, the vulnerability he saw on Maria's face shook him to his core. He had made a promise to protect her, to defend their family. What if we refuse? Jake demanded, his voice firm, though uncertainty loomed like a gray cloud over his resolve. Then you'll find out exactly how far they're willing to go to silence you, the man said, his eyes narrowing, dark like the SUV parked outside. You think you're safe? You're not. Not in this game. Jake felt a chill crawl up his spine, and his mind raced, grappling with possibilities. Could they really fight this? Jake, Maria whispered, fear clinging to her voice. We can't give in to them. We have to find another way. Snowy doubts enveloped him, twisting in knots. But was there any other way? Could they really find support in a world where everything felt stacked against them? The realization hit him like a freight train: their actions could jeopardize everyone they cared about. Taking a deep breath, he sensed a shift in the air. We need time to think. The man straightened. That's fine. But remember, time isn't on your side. With that, he turned and walked back toward the SUV. As Jake and Maria watched him go, the weight of his lingering words pressed down like 1,000 anchors. The door clicked shut, sealing them in a silence that felt thunderous. What do we do now? Maria's voice trembled, raw from the confrontation. Jake turned to her, eyes burning with determination. We find a way out of this mess. We call the Alliance, he said, the resolve hardening in his chest. It's our only chance. But as he held her gaze, doubts flickered in the back of his mind. Would reaching out put them at greater risk? A new veil of uncertainty drifted over them as they prepared for the next dangerous step. What if calling for help only deepened their peril? The implications were dire, and the Stakes unthinkable. However, there was no turning back now. The fight was just beginning, and they had to decide how far they were willing to go, and who they could trust. A revolution was brewing, but with every choice they made, the shadows grew denser, and the question echoed in Jake's mind. What awaited them in the darkness if they dared to press onward? Jake's eyes darted around the dimly lit room, as if he could physically ward off the creeping shadows of danger that loomed closer with every passing second. Maria's breath came in quick bursts, mirroring the chaos swirling inside him. He wanted to be her anchor, to assure her that everything would be okay, but uncertainty gnawed at him, planting seeds of doubt. He stepped back, trying to focus. We need to discuss our options, really figure out what paths we can take, he began. His voice steady despite the storm of emotions churning within him. Maria's eyes were wide, fear lacing every line on her face. Options? She echoed incredulously. You heard him. There's no way out of this. We are in deeper than we ever wanted to be. Jake clenched his fists, wrestling with his instincts. I refuse to believe that, he said, shaking his head. If we give in now, we lose everything. We can't let them control our lives. But what if we reach out to the Alliance and it backfires? Maria pleaded, her voice trembling. What if they're already watching us? He took a deep breath and approached her, lowering his voice. They might be. But hiding one T keep us safe. We have to show them we aren't scared. A sudden knock on the door jolted them both. The sound echoed like thunder in the silence. Their hearts raced and they exchanged a panicked glance. Who is it? Jake called out, his voice steady while his insides were twisting. It's Eric. The voice from outside was low but familiar. I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Jake's heart leaped. Eric was a trusted friend from their support group. If anyone could help, it was him. He shot a glance at Maria, who nodded slightly, her fear mingling with cautious hope. He opened the door just enough to peek out. Eric's anxious face appeared, eyes darting around as if he feared being followed. Thank God you're both okay, he breathed. He stepped inside hurriedly, closing the door behind him. I saw that man from the SUV. He has been watching you. What? Maria gasped, pressing herself against the wall, her features paled. Yeah, I thought it was just a coincidence at first. But I watched as he waited outside and made some calls, Eric continued, the urgency in his voice rising. We need to act now. I have information. Information? Jake asked, his heart pounding. What do you know? Eric glanced over his shoulder before leaning in closer, lowering his voice. I connected with someone in our group who used to work for the company. They know things that can help us expose what's really going on. But it's risky. Maria shifted, anxiety evident in her posture. How risky? Very, Eric warned, his eyes earnest. But the deeper we dig, the more we'll uncover. If what I've heard is true, they're not just corrupt, they're dangerous. Our lives might depend on this. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline. And if we succeed, what then? We can blow the lid off whatever scheme they're running. But we'll need to move fast. No second-guessing, Eric urged. A mix of dread and electricity filled the room. But Jake felt clarity in the chaos. This could be their chance, the glimmer of hope they so desperately needed. Let us do it, he said firmly, more to himself than the others. Commitment coursed through him. He was done living in fear, done with shadows. We'll risk it all for the truth. The path was fraught with uncertainty. Yet every fiber of his being told him this was the way forward. But in the depths of his heart, he harbored a fear that perhaps, just perhaps, they were diving headfirst into an abyss worse than they could imagine. Are you ready for this, Maria? He asked, his voice hushed as he turned towards her. She took a deep breath, her resolve beginning to shine through the fear. If it means protecting our family, then yes, I'm ready. With decisions made and hearts united, the trio solidified their pact. But Jake couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this was only the beginning of a deeper nightmare as they plotted their next move. Whispers of the Dark Alliance lingered in the air, thick with danger and fraught with unanswered questions. What other truths lay beneath the surface, waiting to ensnare them? The dim light flickered, casting long shadows on the walls as the trio gathered around the small table. Jake leaned forward, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Eric, we need to know everything you found out, he said, urgency lacing his tone. Eric nodded, his expression serious. All right, here's the deal. The company isn't just involved in shady scamming. They have ties with some very unsavory characters. I can't go too deep right now, but I've heard whispers about illegal activities, things that put lives at risk. People who have crossed their path. They disappear. Maria's eyes widened, a fresh wave of dread washing over her. You mean like, they kill people? Maybe not directly, Eric replied cautiously. But when people investigate or threaten to expose them, they have a way of shutting them down permanently. We need to be smart about our next steps. Jake felt a chill creep up his spine. The gravity of their situation settled like a lead weight in his stomach. So what's the plan? He asked, trying to remain composed. First, we must gather evidence without tipping them off. Our ally, the one from the group, has access to documents and internal emails that can expose this operation. If we can get our hands on that, we can take it straight to the authorities, Eric explained, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. But how do we get it? Maria interjected, her voice trembling slightly. This sounds risky. Eric replied, we'll need to go in quietly. Our ally is still working there but has agreed to help. They'll only meet us at a public place. No traces back to us. Maria exchanged a worried glance with Jake. What if they find out? We'll be cautious. We have to be in and out. Keep it quick, Jake reassured her. He could feel the weight of her fear, but also the spark of determination igniting within them both. Okay, let us do it, Maria said, her voice steadying. For our family. We can't back down now. Jake felt a rush of gratitude and pride for her bravery. They were facing this darkness together, drawing strength from one another. We'll meet Eric's contact tomorrow evening. Let us make sure we have a plan, no mistakes. As they finalized their strategy, a loud bang echoed through the room, snapping them from their intense discussion. A muffled shout followed, urgent and frantic. They're here. Panic surged and all three of them stood frozen, hearts racing. The floor beneath Jake's feet felt unstable, as if the ground itself was responding to the encroaching fear. Is it them? Maria whispered, anxiety lacing her words. I don't know, but we have to. Before Jake could finish his thought, the door rattled violently, sending a chill down his spine. Get down! Eric shouted, pushing them behind the table for cover. Jake held his breath. They were right in the crosshairs now, fighting a game they hadn't even begun to comprehend. It felt as if the walls were closing in, suffocating his thoughts. Each second felt like an eternity. Stay quiet, Eric warned, peeking out through the small crack of the door. The banging continued, and Jake's mind raced with possibilities. What if their next step led them into a trap? Was this the end of their fight for justice? Suddenly there was a piercing crack, the door splintering under pressure. He could sense the danger thickening in the air. The looming threat now tangible. Everything we've done leads us here, Jake thought, heart in his throat as the door finally gave in. In a fraction of a second everything changed. The door burst open and Jake braced himself, uncertain of what chaos awaited on the other side of the threshold. Run! He screamed, adrenaline propelling his feet forward. But would they escape the darkness they had provoked? Jake's instincts kicked in. Heart hammering, he darted towards the back exit, pulling Maria and Eric along as the chaos erupted behind them. The laughter of danger echoed in his ears, heavy and menacing, sending shockwaves through his body. Where do we go? Maria cried, nearly breathless as they raced down the narrow corridor. Out the back. We'll head to my car. Eric shouted, taking the lead. He glanced over his shoulder, his face a mask of urgency. The sound of heavy footsteps followed them, a reminder that time was running out. Jake could feel each step resonating in his bones, a grim reminder of the shadows that pursued them. They skidded around a corner, the world around them becoming a blur of flickering lights and panic. They dashed out of the building and into the cool night air, the rush of freedom almost intoxicating. But the sense of safety was brief. Eric fumbled for his keys, hands shaking as he searched his pockets. Come on, Jake urged, glancing back at the entrance where looming silhouettes filled the doorway, their presence a dark promise of retribution. Got it, Eric finally exclaimed, and without waiting for confirmation, the three of them piled into the vehicle. The engine roared to life, the sound like music against the chaos of their situation. Drive, Eric. Just drive, Maria shouted. Eric spun the wheel, tires screeching as they tore away from the scene. Jake's heart raced, But it wasn't just from the adrenaline. Guilt gnawed at him for dragging Maria and Eric into this mess. What do we do now? Maria asked, her voice laced with fear as they sped down the deserted street, the city lights blurring into streaks of neon. We need to regroup, Jake said, trying to sound calm. Find a place where we can think this through without being hunted like rats. What about the contact? Do we still meet? Eric shot him a worried glance. The question hung thick in the air like smoke. They had been so close to getting the evidence they needed, and yet now everything felt fragile. Jake bit his lip, weighing their options. We can't lose that chance. We meet, but we do it smart. Somewhere they wouldn't expect, somewhere safe. Just then his phone buzzed in his pocket, the vibration jolting him. He hesitated before pulling it out. A message from an unknown number flashed on the screen. You think you're safe? We know where you are. Panic surged through him again, sharper this time. We have to go, he urged, his tone low, laced with urgency. We're not safe here. What do we do? Maria asked, looking back nervously. Head for the outskirts. Find a diner or something, meet there at the next hour. Text the contact, no calls. They drove on, winding through the streets, the tension thick enough to cut through. Each turn felt like a potential trap. Every street an array of silent observers. As they reached the edge of town, a strange calm settled over Jake. Maybe they could pull this off. Maybe they could expose the truth. But doubt gnawed at him as he caught Maria's anxious gaze in the rearview mirror. After a nerve-wracking 20 minutes, they found a roadside diner, its neon sign flickering like a beacon against the night sky. Jake parked behind the building, the shadows cloaking them from view. Let us lay low and wait for our contact, he instructed. But his stomach churned with anxiety. Maria started, her voice quivering. What if they find us first? He reached back, gripping her hand firmly. We'll fight. We'll find a way. Together. But as they sat there, waiting and watching the dark sky, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something worse loomed just around the corner. What if they were already one step behind? The door to the diner creaked open. A figure stepped out, scanning the area. Jake's breath caught as he held his own breath, wary. Would this person help, or was this the moment their fight turned into a nightmare? Is that them? Eric asked, eyes darting to the figure. Jake tensed, the air heavy with uncertainty. I don't know, he whispered. But we're about to find out. The figure approached, silhouetted against the flickering neon lights. It paused just outside the diner, shoulders hunched slightly, an air of caution wrapping around it like a cloak. Jake squinted, trying to catch any familiar features, but the shadows played tricks on him. What if they were walking right into a trap? What if this was it? Stay close and don't draw attention, Jake whispered, his heart pounding in his chest. He could almost feel the weight of the decision pressing on him. Every instinct screamed to back away. But they needed this lead. The figure spotted them, and with measured steps began walking toward their car. Jake? Maria? The voice was familiar. A low tone tinged with urgency. It was Simon, a familiar face from their support group. Relief washed over Jake as he opened the door, a mix of gratitude and anxiety flooding him. Simon, thank God you're here, he breathed, pulling him into a hasty embrace. We thought we wouldn't make it. Simon glanced back, eyes sharp and watchful. We don't have much time. I got your messages and wanted to warn you. They are looking for you. His voice dropped. Everyone is under pressure to keep their heads down. If you're in the game, you need to keep safe. I can help. Help how? Maria asked, tension thick in her voice. They are everywhere, it feels like a witch hunt. I've got access to crucial documents that prove the company's involvement in illegal activities. We can take this public, but we need to be strategic, Simon explained, urgency in his voice. What do you need from us? Jake asked, quickly assessing the situation. We meet at my place, smaller, away from prying eyes, and gather what we need, Simon urged. This is a race against time, and they've gotten wind of your activities. Don't trust anyone outside us. Jake nodded, determination surging in him once more. This was their chance to avenge what was taken from him and many others. Let us do it. They slipped away, creeping out of the diner and into Simon's car, the tension thick like fog. Simon drove at breakneck speed through deserted back roads, glancing around at every turn. The fear hung in the air, thick as smoke, and Jake felt the weight of the world press against him. I can't shake this feeling, Maria finally said, voice barely above a whisper. What if they catch us? We have to stay strong, Jake replied, building the courage he needed to face the storm ahead. For our family. For everyone. He squeezed her hand, a silent promise that they wouldn't waver. As Simon parked in front of a small, unassuming house, Jake noticed the heavy silence hanging over them. Was this truly a safe haven? The doubts crept back, but before he could spiral into panic, they climbed out, slithering through the front door and stepping into Simon's warm yet cluttered living room. Let us get to work, Simon said, gesturing toward a mess of papers sprawled across a makeshift work desk piled high with documents and files. This is our shot to expose them. Minutes bled into hours as they sorted through files and emails, piecing together a web of corruption that sprawled farther than they anticipated. Each new revelation made Jake's blood boil. How could they ruin lives like this, and why was he just now learning about it? This is it, Simon exclaimed, his finger jabbing at a specific document. We can file this with the news station. They won't be able to ignore the evidence. Jake felt a flood of adrenaline course through him. You really think this can work? He asked, challenging the depths of his doubt. It has to. We don't have another choice. The people need to see what this company is doing, Simon replied firmly, determination shining in his eyes. Then, as if the universe was conspiring against them, the sound of a car screeching to a halt outside sliced through the air. No, Jake's heart sank. They found us. Hide, Simon urged, shoving documents into their hands as they moved quickly to the back of the house, ducking behind a dusty old couch. Stay quiet, Maria pleaded, keeping her voice low as she grabbed their hands. This can't be it. This can't be how it ends. Footsteps echoed from the front door, heavy and menacing, voices creeping through the space like ink spilling into water. They know we're here. One voice shouted, unmistakably filled with malice. As dread seeped into Jake's bones, he whispered to Maria, we have to make a run for it. No matter what, we have to escape. The back door leads to an alley, Simon whispered. It's our only shot. With a nod of agreement, Jake gripped Maria's hand tight, adrenaline buzzing through him. On 3. 1, 2, 3. They bolted from their hiding place, racing toward the back exit, hearts pounding like thunder in their chests. But just as they reached for the door handle, it flew open, revealing the shadowy figure of a man clothed in darkness disguised as the monster they had been fighting against. Jake skidded to a stop, adrenaline surging hot through him. Going somewhere. The man sneered, eyes glinting with menace. Thought you could escape this? In that moment, everything came crashing down around Jake, his dreams, his fears, his fight for justice. He hesitated, fear gripping his heart. Would this be the end? But Maria squeezed his hand tighter, grounding him in the moment. In her eyes he saw a spark, the same fire that ignited him to fight. No, she whispered fiercely, conviction bleeding into her voice. We won't give up. Not now. With resolve hardening in his chest, Jake took a step forward. Get away from us, he shouted, the words carving out strength from deep within him. As the man approached, rage twisting his features, Jake and Maria stood their ground. We'll fight, Maria declared, courage flooding her voice, making the air buzz like a live wire. With the weight of the world on their shoulders, they prepped for their last stand, knowing one fact. They had each other, and together they had the power to turn the tide. Let us do this, Jake said, determination echoing in his voice, ready to face whatever demons awaited them. Together, they echoed, a united front as the battle for justice began anew. A storm of chaos erupted around them. Jake felt hope surge through him. No matter the outcome, they were in this fight together, ready to reshape the world around them. Their voices echoing with strength, their hearts ignited with fire. They defied the darkness that threatened to consume them, rising to meet their destiny. And in the backdrop of their struggle, a community of souls watched, hearts aligned for justice, standing resolute against the tide of oppression, as the fight for the American dream marched forward together. Now is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this powerful content going. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voices matter. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Real fans know how crucial your support is.